Newlyweds stare into each other's eyes, realizing the moment. There's a knock at the door, which no one will answer. Hello to all and welcome to the Ear-Wicker podcast. Follow along with our host, Vince Corkery, as he discusses a broad range of musical topics, with interviews of top players, club owners, producers, and engineers that make it all happen. Your virtual backstage pass. Remember to like and subscribe to this podcast, and of course, it's free.
Welcome all. Welcome to Ear-Wicker Podcast. And today we have a very special guest. He's a very sought-after musician here in town, and not just for his musical skills, but he's a lot of fun to be with. Thayne Bradford.
Hi, Vince.
How's it going today, man?
It's good, really well, man. How you doing?
Good. I'm glad you came over and spent a little time with us. The first thing I want to ask you is, where did you grow up?
Well, I grew up in Illinois, about 3 miles from the Illinois River. It's about 75 miles north of St. Louis.
Oh, okay.
About an hour and a little less than an hour and a half. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
not too far. I was
okay.
a Cardinal fan, not a Cub fan.
All right. That's good to know. How old were you when you first heard bluegrass or music in general that sort of excited you about playing?
Okay, yeah. Well, there was always music around my house. My dad played fiddle and guitar and played the harmonica, which he called the French harp. My brother played strings, dobro, guitar, banjo, even played the fiddle and the mandolin.
And that must be Tom, right?
Yeah, Tom. And my mom played a little bit upright bass and piano, and I had uncles that played. My Uncle Carl Bradford, my dad's brother, was a banjo guitar player, and my mom's brother, Clinton Kessinger, was a fiddle player. Their grandfather was an excellent fiddle player, Crittenden Kessinger.
Oh.
That goes way back.
Okay.
And then my mom's dad and uncles they played.
So both
sides played. So there was always music around. But I'd say that I first heard bluegrass music very early. We had Monroe records, Flatt and Scruggs records in the house, some Jimmy Martin records. That's about all the records you could find back then, really. I mean, we're talking late 50s and through early 60s, So that was my first experience of actually hearing bluegrass. It would probably be Bill Monroe, Blue Moon in Kentucky, with one of his early records, the titles slipped me.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. Were you attracted to the mandolin right away, or?
Well, I played guitar first. I played guitar kind of early. I knew a few chords. Then mandolin came next. I think I might have been in my teens when I taken up the mandolin.
Oh, okay.
But I played guitar in rock bands when I was early on. Like in grade school through high school.
Oh. You mean it's sort of like what was on the radio you were playing? Or?
Yeah, well, we liked the British stuff, the
okay.
Mercy Beat stuff,
okay.
and of course, huge Beatles fan like everyone else.
Right, yeah.
So we did Beatles, Stones, and we did some Monkees. Yeah, I know they're not British, but
It sounded like it.
But yeah, right, and a few Beach Boys songs, just things like popular stuff.
Yeah. Then you took to the mandolin. Now, who were some of your mandolin heroes?
Well, I can say that. Don Brown was one of my heroes. I have a funny story about Don.
Yeah.
I'll tell if you want to get into that.
Yeah.
And of course Bill Monroe, and I liked Sam Bush back in the day. I didn't really get to hear Sam Bush until later on because there was no recordings available anywhere near where I could shop for records anyway.
Right.
But you could always find a Monroe record or Flatt and Scruggs. But Bill Monroe was a big influence.
Oh, okay.
But Don Brown was really more of an influence. He's local, he's a St. Louis guy. And I was friends with his fiddle player, Bobby Puckett, who was a mentor on fiddle a little bit later. I'd say those are the two main influences.
So how did you go from starting to play mandolin in your teens to Kentucky, playing in some pretty important bands because it was a new wave of music, newgrass.
Yeah. Well, before then, my first experience having a real gig was at the Chase Park Plaza. I'd say that was around 71 or so.
Okay, and who
Maybe even
was
a little
that with?
That was with my brother Tom and David Luttrell from Memphis, a guy named Mike Cole from Headache, Illinois, which don't ask me anything about Headache. All I know is that it probably has less people than my town population. But that was so we had a group, and we had a standing gig in the Steeplechase Lounge at the Chase Park Plaza.
Oh, okay.
And they put us up there. We got to live there, and, and we did some commercials for the Four Seasons and the Chase.
Okay. And this was bluegrass.
Yeah, it was straight ahead bluegrass.
Oh, okay.
Wow. And it was kind of, there was some influence by the country gentlemen. Seldom Seen wasn't around yet, so I don't think.
This was in 71. What'd you say?
I'd say 71. Yeah.
71. Okay. Wow, that's pretty early.
Yeah.
So how did you end up going to Kentucky?
Well, I played there at the Chase for about a year and a half. Went back after that ended. I went back to Whitehall, Illinois, and lived there for a little while. And I got a call from this guy Bobby Clark, who's from Oklahoma, who was played in a band with Vince Gill called Mountain Smoke.
Oh.
It was Billy Perry and Vince Gill and Bobby Clark, and I forget the bass player. But Billy Perry's sister was married to Jerry Douglas back then. That was his first wife. And
Jerry Douglas, the Dobro.
Yeah, the Dobro. Flux, yeah.
Right.
So anyway, I don't know what that has to do with this, but but I got a call from Bobby Clark. Vince Gill was the lead singer for the Bluegrass Alliance at the time, and Vince was going to leave and go play with Ricky Skaggs in a group called Boone Creek.
Ah, yeah.
And Bobby Clark called me and said, "Hey, Vince is quitting this band, and you want a job with these guys?" And I said, "Well, heck yeah, man.
Yeah,
There's some pretty heavy hitters that had gone through that group,
Yeah.
So I thought it would be a good experience, and based out of Louisville, Kentucky.
Mm.
And so I went down there and I stayed with Vince Gill for a couple of weeks, and he showed me the ropes, so to speak. And he went on down to Lexington, is where Ricky Skaggs' band was based, and
Okay.
played with Ricky Skaggs for a while. And it was really kind of strange because Ricky put him on steel and fiddle.
Oh.
He didn't really have a spot for him,
Okay.
And I went down to they had a house gig in the Holiday Inn in Lexington, Kentucky, where J.D. Crowe also had a house gig.
Yeah.
And I went down there a few times to see Vince play, and it was just kind of odd that he was over in the corner playing the steel, and
Wow.
and he just kind of played a few things on the fiddle, and I mean he wasn't too bad, but
yeah,
it just wasn't his thing, And so about 3 months later, he wasn't with Skaggs anymore, and I'm not sure what happened, but he might have been that. People like to hear Vince Gill sing even back then.
Yeah.
So
Right.
there might have been a little jealousy, and hey, this is my bandstand, and
Right. Band politics.
That's a story I heard.
Yeah.
But, it's hearsay. But
Yeah.
anyway, he was back on our bus again,
Oh.
Vince.
Oh.
And by that time, I knew that I really didn't want to be a road musician, and I just kind of wanted to settle down and have a family and play locally. And
Sure. Yeah.
And so I begged Vince to take my spot, but he didn't get on with the leader of the band, Lonnie Pierce, all that well.
Yeah.
And hardly anybody did, actually.
Right.
But so I just kept at him. Oh, come on, man! I want to go home and take this gig, and he did.
Oh.
Eventually, and but I remember the first gig he played when he returned with him. He had a Gibson electric mandolin, and they were playing at this huge car dealership, and I was just a spectator because I was going to go home the next day. But I'm there watching him,
Yeah.
Anyway, he had this electric mandolin, and he had it plugged in, of course, and there must have been a little condensation on the ground. So I remember he was singing "Lonesome Feeling," and he starts that, "It's a lonesome, ow," and he gets shocked.
Oh.
And you could see the arc between the microphone and his lips, and he used a few choice words. And the place was full of there were people everywhere.
Yeah.
But anyway, he regrouped, and he did a pretty good job.
Oh, okay. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Wow. So, well, when you were down there, though, did you feel like there was this sort of new style of bluegrass happening?
Yes.
And
I mean,
because of
people,
it,
you know, the Bluegrass Alliance, they were always on the progressive side. I mean, that's the term people always
Right.
used back then. It's progressive bluegrass, you know.
which
and-
means
Well, it just means that you might do a song by John Denver or something and make it bluegrass, you know.
I see. Yeah. So out of the
Or even, you know, there's people that did a couple of songs by the Bee Gees, even, you know,
Oh,
like
wow. Yeah.
what's that song? There's a light, certain kind of light, never shines on me. Anyway,
Yeah.
I heard people do a couple of, like a song by the Turtles, you know,
Oh, wow.
recorded. Of course,
Yeah.
my memory is
Yeah.
so bad
No,
I can't
no,
remember it.
Well, they're
But
doing,
you know,
yeah.
the point is that they just kind of got away from the Blue Moon of Kentucky's and
Right, the
Live and Let Live and
traditional-
traditional bluegrass and tried some new things, you know, and it worked out okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And,
But
you
I mean,
know,
did you think that was like? I mean, because now that's sort of a plateau in bluegrass, right? You have original bluegrass or your standard bluegrass, and then there's newgrass, which really changed a lot of
Yeah,
things.
I think the term progressive ended with the newgrass revival, maybe because they were considered newgrass, and I think people referred to that kind of thing as newgrass. You know, like
yeah.
they consider Sam Bush like the father of newgrass. You know,
Yeah.
which I think is appropriate. You know,
Yeah.
But so I think that. I think that's about the best way I can explain the transition. You know.
Yeah. But I mean, that was really, you were there in the new wave, you know, like.
Yeah, I was there. We played, we had a house gig at a place called the Great Midwestern. We played there 5 nights a week, and everyone came through. It was a stop for touring bands, you know. I mean, I saw Monroe there, saw Ralph Stanley there, and I got to meet Keith Whitley, who was a great guy. And I remember Keith was backstage there, and he had a pre-war herringbone D28, and he kept walking up to people, and he'd get in their face and hit a G run, and he'd give you this look like, huh? What do you think of that? So then he would go to the next guy and G run. Hey, what do you?
Wow.
He was really showing off his guitar.
Yeah.
But I got to meet him. He was really a nice fella, man. You know, it was a shame how all that went down. But saw the. Sundance, Byron Berline's group, you know, I mean, just all these people would come through that was kind of, and it was a stop for them to play a gig, you know.
Okay.
So it was a nice experience. Got to see a lot of people play and meet a lot of people there, you know. But,
Wow, yeah, that's awesome. Then you came back to St. Louis.
yes,
And
I was there about a year and a half and came back. What did I do then? Is that what you're going to ask me?
Yeah. I know that when I met you, it was probably mid 70s or late 70s.
Yeah, well, I played with the Road Apples.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, with Bob Breidenbach and
That's
John
right.
Jump, Ed Cabanis, and
Right.
John Tickner.
Yeah.
Yeah, I played with those guys. I think I started with them in 73 or 4, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah. And we did a lot of gigs around town. We did we went to Columbia and played the Gladstone and Lindbergh's in Springfield. You know, but we kept it regional. We did we'd go to Iowa and Nebraska and Midwest stuff.
Right. Yeah.
But we didn't go too far.
Yeah.
There was a lot to do around here.
Oh,
so,
yeah. Plenty. Yeah. And then I think we started in a bluegrass band called the Alley Cats.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. That was, I think after, I guess, 1981 or 2 or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think it was before 81 because I wasn't married
Oh,
at that
okay.
time.
Okay.
I got married in 81.
Oh,
so.
right. Okay.
Yeah, so it's probably 80 or 79 maybe. 80?
I mean-
Hard to know.
Yeah.
Uh,
And there's so many bands. you know.
Yeah.
But you were always playing, though, always playing around town. People call you all the time. I mean,
well, I played in country bands, you know.
Yeah.
I do do some country gigs and
Sure.
I don't think I was committed to playing with anyone full time. But you know, they'd call for a fiddle player or a guitar, whatever.
Right.
Fill in for people and
Well, and at that time, I don't know how many mandolin players were around and fiddle and that kind of quality because your style was progressive. You know, I mean, there was nobody playing that for a long time. Just maybe in the last few years, it seems like to me that kind of style.
Yeah.
You know, which is you know.
yeah, that
I think you really hooked people when you played that. You know, just you really communicated. You know?
yeah. Well, I hope so.
Yeah, you did. No, it was
Yeah,
really great.
Well, you know, there's definitely a lot more players out there now than there was back then. I mean, there's some really great players around town. But, you know, it was you and my buddy Gary, my buddy Sandy, and my buddy Vince.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And we did the Soulard thing with Mike and Men's quite a bit.
Right. Yeah. We got around a little bit.
We got around, yeah.
But, you know, and you started a lot of bands too, you know. Rockabilly bands and country bands. But what do you look for, like, when you, like, in a musician, like, you know, I'm going to start a band because I like this guy's style or whatever. But what's important to you?
Well, the first thing I look at is can we communicate with one another, you know? And when I find that out, it's are we going to listen to one another when we play? You know, I mean, I know that sounds like, well, sure, you listen to one another, but actually, that's not always true, you know? So, you know, I look for people who want to be team players and understand what the priorities are, you know, and what the goal is. Yeah. To create something really good and everyone do their part, whether it's not very much or a lot, you know, and just understand it's just like a team aspect. Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. If that
totally
makes sense.
No, totally get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the band essence, I think.
Yes.
You know, if you don't have that, then it could be chaotic.
Yeah.
At times, you know. Right?
Yeah.
So I totally get that.
Well, with the Orbits, the first thing I wanted to find was a drummer that could play rockabilly music.
Pretty important.
You know, which requires someone to lay off of cymbals, basically, and that can really swing. You know, I was looking for somebody, like I always say, I needed to find a hillbilly Gene Krupa, which we found in Scotty Hughes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, there's Scotty, man, he is. He can still play great, even after his recovered great. But anyway, that was the first piece. We already had you and I, and you on upright and me on guitar. And then later we added...
Yeah, we had this trio.
We started as a trio, and we had various different names, which I can't even remember some of them. We were trying to figure that out. Yeah. But actually, I have to admit, I kind of stole the Orbits from a band up in my old neck of the woods up there in Illinois. Okay. There's a country band called the Country Orbits. And there's a guy, Danny Matthews, who started that band, and he owned a car dealership, and every time I'd see him up there, he goes, you think you're something, stealing my name, you know. And he'd give me a little trouble. It was all in good fun, you know. But, so that's where that name came from. Okay. But we had a good run in the 90s and 2000s.
Yeah, almost 20 years, I guess.
Yeah.
Bob. Yeah.
And Bob, Brian. Yeah, we added Bob Breidenbach, which I thought was a great addition. And you and I at the time we were playing with Crazy Rhythm, which was with John Ferber. And it was you and me and John Ferber. And I thought, man, if we had a guitar player like John Ferber, I could switch off on the fiddle and we could play some swing stuff, and that worked out good. So anyway, that was it. You, me, John Ferber, Bob Breidenbach, Scotty Hughes.
Right. Yeah. That was fun. That was a lot of fun, that band. So, I mean, then you kind of got into some Cajun music. Yeah. And you learned the Cajun accordion rather well, I would say.
Well, you know.
And who you told me who you listened to a lot on Cajun?
Well, Belton Richard was my main influence in Cajun music. It was kind of like he had a dance band. Everything he played was geared towards dancing for dancers. But he was a soulful singer, and he was a great accordion player too. I think my main influence on accordion would probably be Marc Savoie. I'll never be able to play like him. I don't know how many people can actually, but man, he is really top notch. You know. But Belton Richard, as far as the singing Cajun music, nobody better.
Okay. Yeah. It was an interesting turn, of instruments. But it was cool. I'm just saying it was.
I think it was cool.
Why do you think that just was a magnet towards it?
Well, I think back on it sometimes that I kind of second guess doing it, only because. But then I'm glad I did it, only because it makes some people happy.
Yeah.
I mean, we had a dance we were playing, so we had a gig, and But I will say the language is kind of difficult singing, and I made some faux pas.
Well, I
but
mean,
not many
you
people
tackled
understood
it,
it. So
yeah.
they,
I mean, that's another aspect of your skill is you learned the Cajun accordion and you learned how to play it with feeling, and then you sang in Cajun language, which is. That's a double whammy, man.
Yeah, I worked hard at that, and it was fun. But I mean, I think it was a good experience. We had a nice band. We still play some gigs around Mardi Gras. And
Right.
it's fun stuff. I mean, I think it was a good thing to do.
Yeah. I mean, at the time,
I still have some Cajun accordions in my closet at home. I got a 3-row accordion. I play more than that though.
Okay.
These days.
That's a button. You mean like a button?
It's a 3-row button diatonic accordion.
Okay.
It's a type accordion you might hear, like Flaco Mendez and
right.
conjunto stuff.
Yeah, which is great.
Texas Tornado stuff.
Great stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's great.
And you still play in bands today too with the accordion and.
Yeah, I do. I just recorded with Steve Scarfina. Yeah, and he wanted some accordion. It's kind of rare, and whenever I have to do it, I have to refresh my memory on things. But usually when people request something on a recording, it's pretty simple, just layering and maybe a short phrase here and there.
Yeah.
And a simple solo,
Well, you recorded with Jay Farrar on...
on the Sunvolt record, Honky Tonk?
Yeah.
I think it was Honky Tonk.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I recorded 2 songs on accordion.
Another tool in the toolbox.
Yeah, well, it's a fun tool.
Yeah,
it's like a toy, actually, kind of.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of musicians call you for your skill. I mean, how do you prepare for like a gig or a recording? Like say, hey, Thayne, I need a fiddle and a Cajun.
Well, I usually ask them to send something I can work with.
Okay.
Or not usually, I always do.
Yeah.
And so, of course, that's easy these days, and so that
right.
makes it so much easier to prepare. And I sit around the kitchen table and just listen and say and try to fit something in there that's that's tasteful and draw back a little bit.
Right.
Try to compliment the singer. Try to stand. Yeah, that's the way I prepare for things. Now lyrics.
Oh, yes.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah. No, lyrics are a whole new.
Yeah, so I have a system for learning lyrics because it's hard to do. Seems like it takes a long time for you to own a song. You can play the song, sing it. So I have this gig at Squires every Thursday with Bob Breidenbach and Mike Tiefenbrunn. And so if you play once a week at a place, you want to keep things fresh. So my challenge in the last few years is learning the lyrics to songs. So my system is I write the lyrics out, what I think they are, because most of these songs I almost know, but not
I mean,
quite.
you listen and then write.
Well, I listened to the song. I mean, a lot of these songs you've been hearing for years, so you do know some of the lyrics, just enough to be dangerous. So I write out the lyrics. I'll write them out. I'll copy them off the iPad or phone or something.
Yeah.
Write them out, handwrite them, and then I turn that over, and then I practice the lyrics with my guitar. And then I try to write them out again without any help. So I write the lyrics out again, and then I grade them like a test paper and cross it out in red. And because when you do that, you don't forget. When you get to a certain part of a song, you're thinking, okay, that's where there's that big red line. So it
forces you to.
So it's almost like a visual thing, and you're thinking, okay, so it gets you a little closer to the lyrics, and most of the time it gets you right on. And I like to write anyway.
Yeah.
So
how long do you think that process takes you to learn?
Well, it depends on the song. Gentle on My Mind, it took like 3 years.
Well, a lot of lyrics.
But that's a bit of an abstract lyric, but great. They're great lyrics.
Yeah.
But then I just learned Me and My Uncle, which I've been playing for years, but you get so many requests for Dead songs. And that's a really good Dead song.
Yeah.
And it's funny because, it's like, I know Me and My Uncle went riding down South Colorado. Oh. What's next? I mean, because
everybody gets it.
So anyway, yeah.
Well, that's good method. How long do you think it takes to get that song into your brain?
Well, that one I think I can do this week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I started on it yesterday. But like I said, I knew a lot of the lyrics, but it would be easy to mix up
So
couple of lines.
it's a few days process.
Well, and and it'll take a while to actually own the song.
Yeah,
I think,
but still.
my goal is to be like Charlie Pfeffer,
Aha.
our buddy Charlie.
Yeah.
Yeah, we call him the Americana jukebox.
Right. Yeah.
But Charlie knows the lyrics to so many songs. I love that guy.
Yeah.
But anyway, it kind of depends on the song. The song Evangelina by Hoyt Axton.
Oh.
It's a story, and I could only almost visualize each verse. It just told a story. So I learned that one in like 15 minutes, and I was able to sing it. But it's not. That's not always the case.
Yeah. I guess. Yeah, you're right. Depends on song.
Yeah.
But wow, it's a good method, really. I mean.
Well, it works for me.
Yeah.
A lot of people just don't like to write, and I get that. But I enjoy it. So.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, I mean, you have been writing songs. Are you still writing new songs and recording?
Well, I'm in a little bit of a lull right now, but I'm kind of inspired to redo the songs. I recorded about 23 or 4 songs during COVID, and I'd say at least 20 of them were original songs that I just wanted to get down, just to have them down,
Right, sure.
And so I used GarageBand. It wasn't nothing serious, and recorded all these songs. So that's what you and I have been talking about. I want to get in your studio, and you can help me out and some of the stuff. But I haven't written anything lately. I've been just haven't had it. So.
Well, you can't force it, right?
No. You might get something really bad if you do
Right.
that.
And so what comes to your mind first, the lyrics or melody, or does it matter?
It's a good question. I think it depends on what you're working with. Again, there are songs. I think it's easier for the lyric, because to me it seems like it's the piece of the puzzle doesn't fit as well if you get the music down. You're thinking, man, that's a good. I like that chord progression. I'm going to write something for that, and then all of a sudden you feel like you're concocting something.
You're forcing it.
Yeah, you're forcing it. Right. That's where I was looking for. But then sometimes they just all comes together as one. It's kind of like an egg. Got the yolk and the shell.
That's interesting.
But like the song "Trouble on My Mind."
Yeah.
The Orbis recorded. That all just came together in one big package. It's like the chords, and you just start singing.
Knew it. It was there.
And another song I wrote that I haven't even recorded. Well, I did record it, but it's a very scaled down. It's just is about bluebirds. My wife loves bluebirds. She kind of sees that as a spiritual sign when she sees a bluebird, because they're so magnificent. And we see them at our house. We live right on the river there.
Right.
And so we see a lot of cool birds. But so I know how much bluebirds mean to Maria. So I was playing Boney Crossing the Rhine. That's a Norman Blake song. I think he flat picked it, but I stole it from Jim Renz, actually.
Yes.
Leaford Lee.
Yeah.
But anyway, I started playing Boney Crossing the Rhine, and I started to see this bluebird out there. Pretty little bluebird. So it just kind of came together. But I actually need to record that and really put something out there saying, okay, this is Boney Crossing the Rhine, but I just got words to it.
Good. That's cool.
Yeah.
So if I ask you, if you could go back in time, would you follow the same musical path?
I don't think I'd have any choice, to tell you the truth. Yeah, it's just part of who we are, I think. I mean, I love other genres of music. I love Celtic music, and I tried to play that, but at this point, I just feel like that I'd rather hear people like Kevin Buckley play, Ian Walsh, and so they're so good at it.
Yeah.
They're great at it, And you playing the tune's one thing, and actually feeling like you're part of something is another thing. And Cajun music, I love Cajun music, but I think if I had it all to do over again, I don't know if I would just keep going on all these directions. Might just kind of keep it Americana, and although I do love swing, which is. I guess that's Americana.
Well, I mean,
really.
like you said, you had no choice. This is who you are.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think that, I just, like I said, there was so much music around our house all the time. We had sessions, my mom and dad, and then it wasn't really high skill stuff, but it was heartfelt, and it was a really good experience. And I just think that that's kind of part of our culture, like My dad always had Hank Snow records around, Hank Williams, and he liked Eddie Arnold a lot. And, you know, so I mean, it's just part of you. I think it's just a part of your being, you know.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. Yeah.
And I think when you step out, it's okay. But I just don't. I think you're a little disconnected from it, and there's an element. Even when I play Cajun music, there's an element missing. You know?
Well,
Doesn't mean it's a bad thing.
yeah.
But you just don't sound like you actually live there, and you know, and ate
You
the
think it's the
all
food?
the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know you're. Food's pretty good.
Yeah.
And it's the same way with like Celtic stuff. I used to play around town with Ken McSwan, who was a wonderful human being
Yeah.
from Glasgow, and I saw him there's a little record shop in Kirkwood years ago, and I saw him in there, and he said, "Hey man, why don't you let me push some Scottish stuff your way and see what you think about that?" And
He didn't say it like that, though, did he?
well, no, he said, "Hey, Thayne, what would you think if I put some Scottish stuff your way?" You know, yeah. But so anyway, I enjoyed playing with him, and but I never felt the connection as real as it was when we played bluegrass and old country music and stuff. You know, it's just not to say it was fun. You know?
Yeah, right, sure.
It's good stuff. You know, but
Your roots are probably...
roots is the word.
Yeah, get that. But, you know, you've played many styles and many situations. So do you have like a worst gig that comes to your mind? I know you played a lot of gigs. But...
There's been some.
Yeah.
I remember the Southern Air.
Yes.
We played at a biker bar over in Illinois somewhere, and I can say it was a scary gig.
Yeah.
I mean, these bikers were there, and they didn't quite get what we were doing. You know? So we played Fox on the Run. And all these bikers run up, 4 or 5 of them run up there and say, "Play that again."
Ooh.
So we played it again, got done. "Play that again." So we had to play Fox on the Run and Amy the whole gig.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah, we got out of there. Okay, we didn't get hurt or anything, but it was pretty intimidating.
Oh,
You know?
I bet. Well, conversely, do you have a best gig come to your mind?
Best gig?
I know there's a lot, but
There's so many of them.
yes.
I love them all now.
I know. I hear you.
Yeah, well, this gig I have at Squires as a standing gig is a pretty darn good gig.
Yeah.
And I like that a lot because it keeps, like I said, you have to keep learning things. But I will say the quirkiest, weirdest gig I ever played, and Bob Breidenbach was there. He can confirm this because I thought it might be some kooky dream I was having. But we played at this mansion around Lexington, Kentucky. It was around Kentucky Derby time, and it was a mansion out in the country there, beautiful part of the country. And Bob and me were standing out in the yard, and they had this huge balcony. And all of a sudden, the OJs came out and started doing their thing up on the balcony. And Bob says, "Is that really the OJs?" But it was, and so that was kind of cool. We played there eventually. We played a couple of songs on the balcony too. But so we went inside and just started milling around in this mansion, and Mickey Rooney was walking around in there, and Robert Goulet was sitting in this big armchair, and I think he was intoxicated. And he was telling stories about living in Canada, and it was just really strange, but really cool. But anyway, that might be the quirkiest, weirdest gig I ever played. I mean, I've played some nice festivals when I played with the Alliance. Got to play with, I don't know if I could say they're their best gigs, but they were really fun gigs. Got to meet people like the Osborne brothers, which was kind of hard to meet those guys. They were not very approachable, but I finally got into a conversation with Sonny Osborne. It took years because he just. I don't think he liked people all that much.
Yeah.
But I always admired those guys because I loved their music, and I always tried to talk to Bobby a little bit, but and he'd say hi and just kind of meander off, But I remember seeing the Osmond Brothers on Ralph Emery's show. I think it's called Nashville now. Back in the day.
Yeah.
So I was with the Alliance, and we played a gig, Louisville. A lot of people were there, Tony Rice, and it's a big lineup. And the Country Gazette was there, actually. So anyway, I saw Sonny back there, and I'd seen that when Ralph Emery was interviewing him on the show, he mentioned that he liked Kentucky basketball.
Oh.
So I started talking to him about basketball, and he was up for that.
Okay.
But yeah, it took a long time for him.
Yeah. Well, you knew the Whites also, didn't you?
Yeah, I know the Whites. They're great people. Buck White kind of took me under his wing. I I liked his mandolin style, and we hung out for a few years, and I haven't seen him in a while. But
Yeah.
I did see when Ricky Skaggs was in town. I did get to talk to Sharon.
Oh.
But Buck was already backstage. But they're really down-home folks.
Yeah. Well, okay, so you're playing at Squires Weekly. Is this?
I play there every Thursday with Bob Breidenbach, Mike Tiefenbrunn, your cousin.
Yes.
And I play there every other Friday with John Higgins.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What time do you usually do that?
We play 5:30 to 8 on Thursdays, and we play 7 to 9 on every other Friday.
Oh, okay, great. Well, that's good to know. All right. Well, Thayne, just want to thank you for taking your time and spending it over here at Ear-Wicker. We will be looking for you out there in the next gig. So thank you, Thayne.
Thanks, Vince. It's good to be here.
Remember to like and subscribe to this podcast, and we'll see you backstage.